Before I tell you this, just promise me one thing: listen to my side of the story until the end, because it might sound unbelievable, but it's the truth. I never thought a single dinner could change everything I believed about love, loyalty, and family. I had planned our 10th anniversary with care, picking out a little Italian restaurant in the city where we'd had our first date. The white tablecloths, the soft candlelight, the smell of garlic and basil, it was supposed to remind us of who we were before the bills and the fights and the stress. I wanted us to be that couple again. But from the moment he sat down, I knew something was wrong. He didn't even look at me, let alone take my hand. He just scrolled through his phone, and when I tried to ask about his day, he waved me off like I was a nuisance. My stomach twisted. When the waiter came by, my husband barely glanced up. He ordered wine, but not my favorite, and didn't ask me what I wanted. That alone made my heart crack a little, but I told myself, it's just stress, it's just a phase. Then, halfway through the appetizers, his phone buzzed again. This time he actually smiled, a soft, private smile I hadn't seen on his face in months. And he typed something back. A voice inside me screamed, "Ask him. Now." But I was too scared of the answer. Trying to salvage the evening, I leaned forward and asked, "Is there something you're not telling me?" He looked at me like I was a stranger. Then he sighed, shrugged, and said words I'll never forget. "You're too boring for me." I couldn't even process it. Boring? After 10 years of standing by his side, of cooking for him, of picking up the pieces every time he failed, I was boring? He got up then, leaving me alone at the table, claiming he had urgent business. I remember staring at the empty chair across from me, feeling like someone had reached inside my chest and ripped my heart out. I tried to fight back tears as the server brought the main course, a dish for two, and set it down, not realizing my husband had left. I felt humiliated, exposed, like everyone in the restaurant could see I was a wife no one wanted anymore. I don't know how long I sat there before I gathered the courage to pay the bill and leave. When I stepped outside, the night air was cold, biting. I could barely breathe. As I walked toward the car, I saw his car parked 2 streets over. A woman stepped out and got in beside him. She kissed his cheek before they drove off together. In that moment, a strange calm came over me. The worst had happened, and I was still standing. Maybe that was the beginning of my revenge. Because I decided, right there on that sidewalk, that if he could betray me so easily, I could find the courage to rebuild myself. And maybe, just maybe, to make him pay for every single lie. I went home that night and packed a small bag. I didn't even know where I was going yet, only that I refused to be the woman left behind. If you've ever felt the ground collapse beneath your feet, you'll understand why I had to keep reading, even when it nearly broke me. I barely slept after that awful dinner. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that woman stepping into his car, kissing him so casually like they'd done it 100 times before. Maybe they had. That thought alone kept me wide awake, staring at the ceiling. At 5 in the morning, I finally sat up and grabbed my phone. I had no idea where to go, no family I could trust, and I was scared to call a friend and admit what had happened. So I did the only thing I could think of: I went through his phone records. It sounds wrong, I know. But after everything he'd just done to me, I had no shame left. I logged into the account, searching through the numbers he'd texted most often. One stood out, a number saved under nothing more than a single letter, S. My stomach turned. My sister's name also started with S. Shaking, I opened my laptop and typed the number into a people finder site. It was her. My sister. I couldn't even breathe for a second. My own sister? The one who cried at my wedding, who promised to protect me, who used to braid my hair when we were kids, she was the woman kissing my husband? The betrayal burned so deep I thought I might actually throw up. I started replaying every memory, every moment she'd shown up at our house when I wasn't there, every hug that lasted too long, every inside joke they seemed to share. It all made a sick kind of sense now. My hands trembled so badly I could hardly hold my phone. But I forced myself to scroll further, texts, calls, even photos of them together. Hotel rooms. Dates. Even messages about me. She'll never find out. She's too naive. Those words felt like knives in my chest. I wanted to scream. To call her, to call him, to call anyone, but something in me said, no. Wait. Think. So I waited. Instead of confronting them, I decided to gather proof. I copied every message, every photo, saved them on a secret folder. I wasn't sure what I'd do with it yet, but I knew I'd need it. My sister. My husband. I tried to understand how two people who claimed to love me could do something like this. I pictured them together, laughing at me behind my back. The rage was so strong it scared me. But then something shifted. Under all that rage, there was a tiny spark of power. They had underestimated me. That morning, I changed my bank passwords, my social media logins, and hid my jewelry and documents in a locked bag. It was the only way I felt safe. If they could betray me like this, who knows what else they might take. I went to work that day acting as if nothing had happened. Nobody suspected a thing. Not even when I left a little early to go see a lawyer. Yes, a lawyer. Because if they thought I was going to roll over and let them ruin me, they were wrong. The lawyer listened patiently as I showed him everything, the messages, the photos, the hotel receipts. He nodded, calm, and said, "We'll take care of this. You are not alone." For the first time in days, I felt like I could breathe again. That night, I lay in bed, still alone, still heartbroken, but no longer helpless. I had a plan. If you've ever wished you could see justice happen with your own eyes, you'll understand why I couldn't look away that day. After meeting with the lawyer, I spent a week pretending my life was normal. Every morning I woke up next to him, forcing a smile, acting as though I hadn't seen those photos of him with my sister. I made his breakfast, washed his shirts, even laughed at his terrible jokes. It was the hardest performance of my life. But it was necessary. The lawyer had told me, don't tip them off. Let them feel safe. So I did. While they thought they were safe, I was gathering everything, bank statements, property records, even copies of messages that proved my sister had helped hide assets from me. My husband, in his arrogance, had told her about all his accounts. She knew where every dollar was. And thanks to her, now I did too. I never expected to feel so calm as I made plans to destroy them. But once I realized they saw me as naive, that word burned through me like gasoline on fire. I wasn't naive. I was patient. The moment finally came at a family gathering. My parents had organized a Sunday lunch, the kind with too much food, loud laughter, cousins running around, the usual. They were both there. My sister, acting like nothing had happened, even hugged me. I had to fight every instinct to push her away. My husband smiled that fake smile of his, wrapping an arm around me in front of everyone. I nearly gagged. But I held on. Because that was the day the lawyer told me to serve him the papers. Halfway through lunch, while people were joking and passing plates of pasta, the lawyer arrived. My stomach was in knots as he walked across the garden, briefcase in hand. I saw my husband's face change. My sister went pale. The lawyer handed over the divorce papers, plus a notice that I was freezing all our joint accounts. I will never forget my husband's expression. like someone had slapped him with the truth. He stammered, What is this?" And I said, as calmly as I could, "You're too boring for me." The same words he had thrown at me during our anniversary dinner. Watching him flinch was a satisfaction I can't even describe. The rest of the family went silent, forks frozen halfway to their mouths. It was like a scene from a bad drama, but this was real, and it was mine. My sister tried to jump in, tears already running down her face, saying, "It's not what you think." But I cut her off. "I know exactly what it is." The lawyer calmly explained the documents, the division of property, the evidence of infidelity. My parents were shocked. I could see my mom's hands trembling. But no one defended them. No one. That moment, in front of everyone, was the first time I felt powerful again. When lunch ended, I left without saying goodbye. I refused to let them see me cry, refused to let them see me break. Because I wasn't broken anymore. That night, as I lay alone in my own apartment, I realized this was only the beginning. There was still so much I didn't know, secrets hiding beneath secrets, and one name I hadn't expected to hear would soon come up. Before you judge me for what I did next, remember, they left me no choice. After serving the papers, I thought the worst was over. My husband had been humiliated in front of the family, my sister exposed, and the money protected. I could finally start healing, right? Wrong. A week later, I got a call from my mother asking me to come over. She said, "There's something you need to see." Her voice was shaky, the kind of scared I'd only heard once before, when my grandmother passed away. I drove straight there, no makeup, hair still messy, heart pounding. I thought maybe she was angry about the divorce, or disappointed in me. I was ready to defend myself all over again. But when I walked into my parents' living room, I saw something I hadn't expected, my mother holding a stack of letters tied with a faded blue ribbon. She said, "These are from your sister." My sister had been writing letters to my mother for months, confessions, apparently. Letters where she admitted how guilty she felt, but also that she'd been forced into the affair. Forced? I didn't understand. My mother handed me the first letter, her eyes wet with tears, and told me to read it. The words on those pages changed everything. My sister wrote about being pressured by my husband. How he'd manipulated her, threatened to reveal something from her past if she didn't agree to help him. How he'd promised he'd protect her from legal trouble if she did what he wanted. My hands shook so badly the paper rattled. Apparently, years ago, my sister had been involved in a financial mistake, something small, but enough for him to blackmail her. And he'd used that leverage to trap her into an affair that would break me apart, so he could take full control of our shared money and hide it overseas. He had planned everything. I felt like the air had been punched out of my lungs. I hated my sister, but reading her words, seeing how terrified she'd been, a small part of me understood. I still couldn't forgive her, but I understood. I sat there, numb, as my mother cried beside me. My husband wasn't just a cheater. He was a predator. Everything I'd built with him was a lie. For days, I couldn't eat. Couldn't sleep. The knowledge that he'd manipulated my own sister to destroy me, it was worse than anything I had imagined. But the more I thought about it, the more another feeling grew inside me, resolve. I wouldn't just divorce him. I would expose him. I called the lawyer again. Showed him the letters. He agreed there might be enough to press criminal charges, especially if my sister agreed to testify. I was terrified to confront her, but I had no choice. I met my sister in a small cafe, our childhood place, the one with the sticky tables and cheap coffee. She came in looking like she hadn't slept in weeks. Before I could even speak, she broke down sobbing, telling me she was sorry, begging me to believe she never wanted to hurt me. For a long time, I just listened. I didn't hug her. I didn't comfort her. I wasn't ready. But I did tell her one thing. If you want to make this right, you'll help me destroy him. She nodded through her tears. That was the moment I realized this wouldn't be just a divorce. It would be a war. If you've ever wondered what true justice feels like, stay with me, because this part still gives me chills. After everything, the affair, the humiliation, the heartbreak, I knew I couldn't just walk away. Not when he had tried to ruin me so completely, using the person I loved most against me. My sister and I met with the lawyer one last time to put our plan in motion. She had agreed to testify. Her confession letters, plus the phone records, plus my evidence from the financial accounts, created a perfect storm. It was enough to file a criminal case. The day of the hearing, I sat outside the courtroom, my hands sweating, knees bouncing uncontrollably. I had never been more terrified, but never more certain of what I was doing. My husband walked in wearing that same smug grin, as if this was all beneath him. Like I was still that boring woman he could control. But the second he saw my sister sitting next to me, his face changed. He went pale. The prosecutor laid out every dirty secret, the manipulation, the blackmail, the offshore accounts, the affair. My sister's testimony was like a dagger straight to his carefully built image. When they played the recorded messages he'd sent her, threats, demands, everything, I thought he might actually faint. Part of me wanted to look away, to spare him the shame. But I didn't. He had tried to break me. I watched every second of him being exposed. The judge ordered a freeze on all his assets, placed him under investigation for fraud and coercion, and granted me immediate separation and full control of our shared property. It was surreal. I walked out of that courtroom with my sister by my side. We didn't speak for a while. There was too much pain between us to fix in one day. But at least she was free, too, and I was no longer his victim. That night, I sat alone on my apartment balcony, breathing in the city air. For the first time in what felt like forever, I wasn't afraid. I thought about the woman I had been, the one who stayed up late cooking for a man who didn't love her, who put everyone else first, who let herself shrink so he could shine. She was gone. In her place was me, strong, wiser, maybe a little bit harder, but no longer willing to settle for less than I deserved. I don't know if my sister and I will ever truly be close again. Some betrayals cut too deep. But I no longer hate her. I think that's a start. As for him, he's still fighting his legal battles, trying to salvage his reputation. But I don't even follow it anymore. It doesn't matter to me what happens to him, as long as he stays far away from my life. I rebuilt myself. Piece by piece, moment by moment. Now, when I look in the mirror, I see someone I can be proud of. And if anyone out there is listening, if you're where I was, thinking you have no options, that no one will believe you, hear me clearly, you are stronger than you think. No one gets to decide your worth except you. If my story moved you, don't forget to share it, maybe it will help someone else escape their own nightmare.